Are you guys in the mood for community goods and great barbecue? That's what you'll find at the Coker Market, located in Coker, Alabama at the four-way intersection off of County Road 140. Their hours of operation are Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m., and their menu items include the Midnight, which is smoked ham, smoked pork, Swiss cheese, Creole mustard, mayonnaise, and a pickle, grilled on French bread. That sandwich is absolutely amazing. Make sure you go and check out the Coker Market right there at the four-way intersection in Coker for amazing food and community goods. You are locked in on the Stingray Show, and coming up on this edition, we are going to talk all things Alabama basketball with a former player and head coach for the University of Alabama. He played at the university from 1984 through 1987, and then was the head coach from 1998 through 2009. I'm talking about Alabama head coach Mark Godfrey will join us on this edition of the Stingray Show. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get things rocking and rolling.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good. It's kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah. But then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9. With the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And Heath, with all of that, we want to welcome you inside another edition of the Stingray Show. And Heath, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This episode is going to be electric.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. You know, for all of our SEC fans, you will remember the name. But, of course, we're here on Tide 100.9, and everybody will remember the name.
Yes. So I also forgot to mention he had a coaching stop as well at Murray State and at North Carolina State after his tenure at Alabama. And he was the SEC regular season champion back in the year of 2002. And also that year, the SEC Coach of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome to the Stingray Show, Mr. Mark Godfrey. Coach, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful out here in Newport Beach, California, so I can't complain.
So, Coach, how far are you from the beach? Are you oceanfront? Are you down the street? Are you close by?
I'm about 2 miles. I can get it. I can go out my front door and walk it in about, 30 minutes, and I'm right down there on the beach and sitting on the sand, so it's not bad.
Beautiful.
That's
well, I've
awesome.
seen the beaches there in Newport. They are beautiful. So, well, Coach, thank you for coming on the show. I'm sure we've got so many questions that we want to throw at you, so we'll try to get them going now before we run out of time. But when you think back to your time in Tuscaloosa, what's the one thing that you miss the most? Is it a restaurant? Is it the folks? What is it?
Well, it's always people more than anything for me. I had great friends there. You have to remember, my kids went to American Academy. They loved the school. It was great. We enjoyed it. I love Tuscaloosa. We lived out on the lake in Crown Point.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. So anyway, I miss the people. Great restaurants, and I loved being a part of the University of Alabama. But I think the people, they treated me so well there through all those years. I could never complain about that.
Wow.
So, Coach, let's go back to your playing career. You played one season at Oral Roberts before transferring to Alabama in 1984. What ultimately made you decide to transfer to Alabama?
Coming out of high school, Coach Sanderson had recruited me and Sonny Smith at Auburn at that time. And, Alabama had Enos Watley. He was a freshman. Enos was a great player. And so, even though Alabama recruited me, I was down in Mobile. It was kind of a half-hearted effort. They had their guy. And so I chose to go to Oral Roberts only because of the coach that was there. I had a great relationship with him. But when I was out there, I realized, I had worked my whole life to be a really good basketball player, and I wanted to play at the highest level. And at the same time, Enos Watley had put his name in the draft, and Alabama needed, they were in need then. They had a bigger need for me. And so Coach Sanderson did a great job, and he flew out to Tulsa. And, we laughed about it. We've laughed many times. He got in a hotel out there and said, "I'm not leaving until you sign." And so he actually had the papers, and he came over in a taxi cab, and he put the papers on top of the cab. I signed it, and there we go. I'm heading to Alabama. So it all turned out really well, and I just loved every minute of it.
So, Coach, a quick follow-up to that. What are some of your fondest memories of playing for the Crimson Tide from 1984 through 1987?
Well, we had so much success. We went to 3 straight Sweet 16s as a player during that stretch. And Coach Sanderson was doing such an amazing, won the SEC championship in 87, and we won the SEC tournament champions. We were double champions that year, but my roommate Jim Farmer and I, we've stayed really close. We probably talk once a week. We see each other all the time. And guys like Derek McKee and Keith Askins and Terry Connor and J.J. Jackson, we just had a great group of guys that honestly weren't rooted. And we just became really good as a team. And we had great success and great runs. We're still disappointed that we didn't get past the Sweet 16. They thought we were good enough to go to the Final Four. We entered the tournament as a 2 seed, got to play at Birmingham those first 2 games. So it was a lot of fun. I think what we all still look back, and we all are kind of trying to figure out why we didn't get past Providence back in 87 and make it to the Final Four.
Coach, what in the world was Tuscaloosa like back in the mid-'80s as a college student?
It was a lot of fun, I can tell you that.
I'm sure you're glad social media wasn't around too, right?
It was a lot simpler, probably a lot smaller. The restaurants and bars for college kids down there in Galette's and the Brass Monkey and all those kind of places. They were a lot of fun. But when you're an athlete, a lot of times you don't have the free time that the normal student does, and so we were tied up a lot, and it was a different experience, but. We lived in Bryant Hall. People forget that back then, with the athletic dorm, which is now the academic center, they've done a great job. It's beautiful. But, we lived with the football players and the basketball players. And some of those guys, what was so nice about that is they became great friends. We got to know those guys. We ate every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a late night snack, all in Bryant Hall. And so we were kind of confined to that building. And even though that was interesting, it was a lot of fun. Guys that Mike Shula, was down the hall for 4 years, and we got to be great friends. And Wes Neighbors and Preston Gothard, and I can go through. There's 40 of those guys like that in that era, and that was kind of fun getting to know the basketball, the football players all together. But I had a great experience there as a student athlete. It was just wonderful.
Coach, looking back at your playing career, what is the biggest highlight that you still enjoy looking back and smiling about?
Probably, winning the SEC championship as a player. I think that was just that league is such a great league. And here's what happens, I think, even at Alabama. People love basketball there, and, football is always going to be king. We all understand that. But, C.M. Newton had won a SEC championship. I think it was 74. We won it in 87 as a player. And then when I coached there in 2002, we won it. And there was a stretch over about a 40-year period where there was only 3 SEC championships. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think, a lot of times Alabama basketball has won more than that. We really haven't. And so to win those championships, I was able to do it as a player and then as a coach as well. Just hasn't been done a ton at Alabama. Mm-hmm. Even though Alabama has great teams and great players, that league is such a good league, and it's such a balanced league that it's very, very difficult to do. So I think as a player, when you play on that championship, you get to cut the nets down. Yeah. We had beaten Florida for the SEC championship late in the season there and clinched it. And that was just a lot of fun.
Wow.
So, Coach, hold that thought because we're up against our first break. And when we come back, we are going to dive into your head coaching time at Alabama. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back. Citizens of West Alabama, have you heard the news? The Bank of Moundville, which was established way back in 1907, offers personal loans of all sizes, unsecured and secured, with competitive interest rates. You can contact them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is the Bank of Moundville, 205-371-2227, or go by and see them in downtown Moundville. They are an equal housing lender and a member of the FDIC. Do you guys like to fish? I know I do. And if you have a pond or lake in your backyard that needs stocking of fish, you need to contact biologist Jeff Bagwell with Honey Hole Fisheries. He can help you stock your lake with bluegill, largemouth bass, and hybrid striped bass. You can get in touch with Jeff Bagwell and Honey Hole Fisheries at 205-799-0192. Once again, that is Honey Hole Fisheries, 205-799-0192. Contact Mr. Jeff Bagwell today and let him help you build the lake of your dreams. Do you guys dream about owning a home or a condominium down on the beautiful beaches of Alabama, say Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, or maybe even Fairhope? Then let me tell you about First Class Real Estate South Home Group's owner, Celeste Hagler. She has brokers down there in the beautiful beaches of Alabama to help you purchase the home of your dreams and to live where you love in the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste Hagler at 205-861-5698. Contact Celeste Hagler today to help you live where you love in the state of Alabama.
For more from Tide 100.9, let it fly, and there's it. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud.
Residents of Tuscaloosa, are you guys upsizing, downsizing, looking for college housing, or even relocating for your job right here to Tuscaloosa? If that's the case, then you need to contact Celeste Hagler, owner and operator of First Class Real Estate South Home Group. She can help you with the buying, selling, and investment needs throughout the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste at 205-861-5698. Reach out to Celeste again at 205-861-5698 and schedule a consultation to discuss your real estate goals and to live where you love in the state of Alabama. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is former Alabama head coach Mark Godfrey. And Coach, after college, you became the head coach of Murray State for 3 seasons before being hired by Alabama on March the 25th of 1998. What was that hiring process like? And if you would, please walk us through that entire process.
So when I was coaching at Murray State, first of all, it was a great place for me to start as a head coach. You know, I got to learn how to be a head coach, and I got to make mistakes, and the whole world wasn't watching. And I think sometimes that happens to coaches where they get thrown into the lion's den, and you know, all of a sudden all eyes are on them. So I had a great 3 years at Murray State. A lot of people don't remember or don't realize that after my second year at Murray State, both Tennessee and Georgia both opened that year. And I had a feeling that Alabama potentially could become open the following year. Dave Hobbs, who I played for he was an assistant for Wimp Sanderson. Their teams were good, but there was a lot of talk that, that job could potentially open. Mm-hmm. So I actually turned down the Tennessee job and the Georgia job, waiting one more year for the Alabama job. And it was an interesting process. Bob Backrath was the AD at the time. Mal Moore was the associate AD. And, Bob and I had a good relationship, but it was kind of a back and forth. He kind of came after me, but he didn't really come very hard. And I was a little disappointed. It was my alma mater, and our teams were doing really well at Murray State. But it all worked out, and I was glad I took the job. I was glad I had the opportunity to come back to Alabama as a head coach. That was such a thrill and an honor for me, having played at Alabama, then to be the coach there. Right. So it just the process was interesting. And, I thought a lot about taking the Georgia job and the Tennessee job that second year at Murray State, but I just felt in my heart I wanted to wait and see if Alabama were to open, and it did. And so it all worked out pretty well.
So, Coach, a quick follow-up to that. Your first game as coach of Alabama was against Ohio State. What do you remember most about that first game as coach of your alma mater?
Well, I can remember that I was actually hoping my first game was going to be against somebody like Grambling or something. We had to go on the road to Ohio State. Not only that, Ohio State had played for about 50 years in this old arena called St. John's Arena, and they were opening up this brand new, beautiful arena. So we were the first game, the place was electric, and you're kind of walking in saying, what did I get myself into here?
Yes.
And, that first year when I was there, we inherited a group of guys that, they were fun to coach, but probably our talent level wasn't, where we needed it to be. And it was going to take a couple years to recruit and then, grow up some young players and get them ready. So we kind of, the game was a good game. It was a competitive game. We didn't win, but I just remember we're not really ready for this one just yet. But, those games always help you in the end, and it was a lot of fun.
Coach, you were talking about the mistakes that you made at Murray State. Not everyone's watching. For our young audience, the college students are out there, even the young adults or folks still moving up the ladder in the working world. Can you talk about those kind of mistakes because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, what kind of mistakes are you making as a first year head coach, or, how did you overcome those? Because I love the Dave Ramsey quote, successful people stand on top of their problems instead of being buried by them. And you clearly were successful. So talk about those mistakes and how you overcame them and what mistakes those were.
Well, I think when you're beginning to be a head coach, first of all, it's a lot different than being an assistant coach. And, it's a lonely position, to be quite honest. That when you're an assistant, you got some peers and other assistants you can kind of talk to a lot and bounce things off of. When you're a head coach, sometimes you're sitting there, it's a little bit lonely. Mm-hmm. But I remember going to Murray State and, it's hiring a staff. And am I hiring the right people? Am I looking for the right things? Some of the recruiting decisions that you make, in-game situations, you're coaching a game and you feel like, boy, you're in a tough situation. You have to make a decision. And then you go home late at night thinking, boy, I don't know if I made the right call. I should have done this instead of that. And so you're constantly, it was almost a great training ground for me to be prepared then to go to the SEC. And so there are so many things that come into becoming a head coach. And you just have to learn a little bit, some of those things. And then over time, you all of a sudden you're in an in-game situation and there's a timeout or there's a play to be called or you're switching defenses or an out-of-bounds play, whatever it might be. And you're a lot more comfortable having done those things for me at Murray State, because like I said, there were a lot of times I felt, boy, I might have screwed this up, or I didn't make the right decision, or hiring a coaching staff. And, maybe I put emphasis on the wrong things. And what I've always felt like is coaches, when they become head coaches, it's good to have, those years like I did under my belt, because I felt so much more prepared to go to Alabama than I would have if I would have just gone straight from UCLA as an assistant coach to a job like Alabama, which is a pretty big job. So I thought those years were just really good for me.
Coach, you talked about your time at UCLA. I was going to ask you about working with Coach Jim Herrick. I was a big fan of Jim Herrick. And also you worked with Coach Levin. And, he went on to do some fun things and great things as well. But what did Coach Herrick teach you? What was that like working on that staff under him?
Well, I've always said, Jim Herrick, and he just, I've got a podcast, obviously. I just released a episode with Jim, and he was really, really good. And, he talked about, some of the mistakes he's made, obviously, over a career. But, you look back with no regrets, and all in all things are good. But Jim was such a good teacher. Jim started off, Coach Herrick, 9 years in high school at Morningside High School here in Los Angeles, before he became an assistant coach in college, and then he went to Pepperdine and kind of cut his teeth before UCLA. So with his teaching background, he sat in the classroom, he taught English for 9 years. And so his methods of coaching and building a practice plan and minute by minute and all the things you want to cover and being prepared, I always thought he was really good at that. And those were a lot of things I carried over throughout the years, and how I planned my practices and things that we ran offensively or defensively. And I was able to be at UCLA 7 years and, watch him be the head coach, obviously help him and recruit and coach. But I learned such a great deal from him. And then the other thing that happened was when I was at UCLA, I had the amazing privilege and opportunity to spend unlimited time hanging out with Coach John Wooden, who won 10 national championships back in the 70s. And so I just was, they're kind of the formative years. You're learning how to coach. How do I want to coach? What do we want to do? What do I want my program to look like? And I was able to be around two guys that had been very, very successful in that regard. Then obviously Wimp Sanderson. My time with Coach Sanderson at Alabama was unreal. He was such a good coach. I think he nationally was underappreciated for the success he had. And so anyway, I was able to spend time around some really good, successful coaches, and that really helped me.
Citizens of West Alabama, have you heard the news? The Bank of Moundville, which was established way back in 1907, offers personal loans of all sizes, unsecured and secured, with competitive interest rates. You can contact them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is the Bank of Moundville, 205-371-2227, or go by and see them in downtown Moundville. They are an equal housing lender and a member of the FDIC. So, Coach, hold that thought, because we're up against another break, and when we come back, we are going to continue to dive into your coaching career at Alabama. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back. How would you guys like to try a caramel cookie butter hot chocolate? Hey, you guys ordered the Blitzen so much at Strange Brew Coffee House over the holidays until Strange Brew made the Blitzen a permanent addition to Strange Brew Originals. Hey, it's cold outside, it's wintertime, you probably need a pick-me-up or maybe even something to warm you up. Go by Strange Brew Coffee House on the Strip at the University of Alabama, 1101 University Boulevard, and get you something that will warm your heart and your soul right here on the Strip at the University of Alabama. Are you guys in the mood for community goods and great barbecue? That's what you'll find at the Coker Market, located in Coker, Alabama, at the four-way intersection off of County Road 140. Their hours of operation are Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. And their menu items include the Midnight, which is smoked ham, smoked pork, Swiss cheese, Creole mustard, mayonnaise, and a pickle, grilled on French bread. That sandwich is absolutely amazing. Make sure you go and check out the Coker Market right there at the four-way intersection in Coker for amazing food and community goods. Your life can change on a dime, and if you are relocating for your job up to the rocket city of Huntsville, the fastest growing city in the state of Alabama, you need to contact Celeste Hagler of First Class Real Estate South Home Group. She has brokers all over North Alabama to help you get settled with buying a new home in North Alabama. You can contact her at 205-861-5698. Once again, that is Celeste Hagler, 205-861-5698. Contact Celeste Hagler today to live where you love in the state of Alabama, even in the rocket city of Huntsville.
Eli Gold, Chris Stewart, and Roger Hoover live right here. Tide 100.9 is a proud partner of the Crimson Tide Sports Network.
Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Mark Godfrey, the former Alabama and NC State basketball coach and coach. Later in the season, your first season at Alabama, your team knocked off number 5 Kentucky here in Tuscaloosa, 62-58. What do you remember most from that huge upset win versus Kentucky?
You know, our team was not a great team that year, but we had really good guys that wanted to, they wanted to win. They had struggled a little bit before I got there. And, we were good enough on one night to beat a Kentucky that we might lose an Ole Miss by, it was up and down like a yo-yo that year. But I remember late in the game, Sam Hagenes from UMS Prep down in Mobile, he had a big steal and a big dunk kind of sealed the win there for us. And that was a great step, for our program. When you're trying to build something, you need some of those building blocks of success to gain the confidence of the players, the fans, the administration, all those things. And that game, I thought, was a really big one for us. And for me early on, for our program. And we kind of gained some respect, I think, around the league and then also around the country.
Coach, I'm here in the Memphis area. Penny Hardaway's, of course, at University of Memphis, and he made a statement a couple of years ago talking about some head coaches have problems with NBA guys like me being head coach. They don't like us. And I thought that was so far-fetched. And I was like, I'm not buying that for a second. It's okay. You can tell me I'm wrong. My wife tells me I'm wrong every day. But is that something out there? I know there's jealous people, and I'm sure there are some coaches out there that think that. But what do head coaches think about former NBA guys coaching at the collegiate level?
Well, first of all, I think that there's a lot of ways to become a head coach. Some guys are promoted up and from assistant. Mm-hmm. Some guys have coached in high school. Some guys, like I was started as a graduate assistant in college. And there's no playbook on how you have to get there. And you take guys like Penny, Juwan Howard at Michigan right now. Those guys had so much success playing. But I think the thing that people forget about guys like that, they were also coached by great coaches.
Right.
So they learned a lot. Penny, not only was he a great player, but you talk about and the experiences he had from high school to college to the NBA and things that he learned along the way and things that he picked up along the way, just like Juwan Howard. There's other guys like that. Mo Williams, who played for me. At Alabama, is now the head coach at Jackson State. And, even though Mo was an assistant for me for a couple of years out here in California, he's a player that he brings so much to the table because of all the guys he's played for. You talk about guys in the NBA legends like Jerry Sloan. Mo played for him in Utah. And then you go through all these guys that he played for, and so those guys bring a level of experience a lot of times that sometimes college coaches maybe haven't seen or done. So maybe it's a little bit of jealousy. I've never felt that way. I think that I've got great respect for those guys because of what they did as players and what they learned from great coaches as players. So I think all in all, there's a lot of ways to get there, and it's a hard job. I don't care if you've been a pro, a high school coach, or however you get there. Those jobs are difficult. And those guys have done a great job.
So, Coach, let's move to the 2000 and 2001 season. You finished that season 25-11 with a very deep run in the NIT championship. Walk us through what you remember about that deep run in the NIT back in 2001.
Well, the first thing was we were just devastated that we didn't get in the NCAA tournament. I think that year it kind of came down, maybe the last 1 or 2 or 3 teams picked. It was us and Georgia. And actually, Jim Herrick was coaching at Georgia at the time. And we had beat Georgia head up. And so we were really bothered by that. And I'll tell you what happened. I really didn't pay attention as a head coach early on to the whole strength of schedule concept. And we kind of rolled through those early, December games, and our schedule wasn't really that good. We had a couple really tough teams, but just didn't really pay attention that much at the time. So we felt we got snubbed. We felt like we should have been in the tournament. We didn't get in the NCAA tournament, so we went to the NIT. And then I was really proud of our guys. We made it all the way to the championship game of the NIT. And what people may not remember is, we had 4 freshmen starting for us at that time. So I knew we had a chance to be good in the next couple of years. We started the 4 freshmen. We made it all the way to New York City there and got beat by a senior-laden team. I think Tulsa it was, and they were all juniors and seniors, a little bit older than we were. But it was really the kind of a stepping stone that we needed for then the next year, because the next year we had all those guys coming back, plus we added Mo Williams, who was became the national freshman of the year, and he was the best point guard in America.
Right.
So that year, going to the NIT was actually a really important year for us. It was a good year, because we needed that success and we needed some postseason, and we felt, like I said, we felt snubbed, like we should have been in the tournament. And that was really a bother for us. So I think our guys kind of galvanized that, and they got going and played really well in the NIT.
Coach, we always hear about the coaching fraternity and how all you guys are close and this and that. But back during your days in the SEC, who were some of your good friends in the coaching ranks as far as head coaches in basketball?
So here's what you have to remember. That's a great question, by the way. I get the job at Alabama, and I had just turned 33 years old. I was 32 years old. I just turned 33. Now I'm made the head coach. And I'm looking down the road, and Cliff Ellis has Auburn. People forget this. They were on the cover of Sports Illustrated, preseason number 1, by the way. And so I got Cliff Ellis over this way, Rick Stansberry over at Mississippi State. I got John Brady down at LSU. Tubby Smith was at Kentucky. Billy Donovan was at Florida. Nolan Richardson was at Arkansas. And I can go on and on through the league now. And I'm a young guy looking around at these guys that have coached and been really good and successful. And I'm thinking, how in the heck are we going to catch all these people? And because not only were they good coaches, they were already somewhat established. Nolan had been in 2, won the national championship at Arkansas, and then, got to the championship game when our UCLA team beat him. But that was a little bit of a daunting task, to look around the league at that point in time. Cliff Ellis had recruited me when I was in high school. He was at South Alabama at the time, and obviously I knew Cliff really well. I had played against Billy Donovan in college, and then we were assistants. I was at UCLA and Billy was at Kentucky, and so we had kind of, gotten after each other from recruiting battles. So I knew everybody, but I was trying to cut my teeth. And that's a tough league to cut your teeth in with those guys all around you. So here's what happens in coaching. You compete really hard against each other. John Brady and I used to go at it where we became enemies. And, we about fist fought a couple of times. And then Rick Stansberry and I, we wanted to slug each other too while we were coaching against each other. But then when you get older, you kind of realize, look, you're making pretty good money. I'm making pretty good money. We're all good. How about we all just get along? Can we just hold hands and sing Kumbaya? You kind of get to a point as a coach where you do that. And, those guys now later in life, it's kind of funny because there's so much mutual respect, back and forth with, those coaches and the guys you've battled with that, I don't really have any ill feelings or ill relationships with anybody. They're all pretty good. I see John Brady from time to time, and Rick and Cliff and, all these guys. So anyway, you end up later in life because there's so much respect. Everybody knows how hard those jobs are that, you're going after each other with a switchblade while you're coaching, but then later in life you kind of hug and make up and become friends.
Coach, I got to squeeze this in real quick. Looking back during those times, who was the biggest jerk that you coached against? Was it Brady? Was it Stansberry? Because you and Stansberry had some classic battles with recruiting and on the court, but you mentioned Brady. But who was the guy that really got under your skin that you really just wanted to knock out?
Probably John Brady. It's funny because we've talked about it and laughed about it later in life. But we kind of got to a point one time where we said, look, you just stay and recruit Louisiana. I'll just stay in Alabama and we'll be good. But probably John, he had such good teams and such great players. He's such a really good coach. But, we got grumpy at each other a few times. And then, obviously Rick and I got real grumpy at each other. And that, but you know what? It ended up being a lot of fun. And later on in life, we've talked about things and laughed about things. And so it's all good in the end.
So, Coach, hold that thought because we're up against our final break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into the number one season right there for the Alabama Crimson Tide. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back. Since 1999, residents of Tuscaloosa has depended on this butcher shop and grocery store. I'm talking about South's Finest Meats. With their specialty meats and fresh to frozen bulk vegetables, you can prepare delicious home-cooked meals all week long. At South's Finest Meats, customer service is their number one priority, and when you shop with them, you can expect to be treated like an MVP. Go by and check out South's Finest Meats at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show. Residents of Tuscaloosa, are you guys upsizing, downsizing, looking for college housing, or even relocating for your job right here to Tuscaloosa? If that's the case, then you need to contact Celeste Hagler, owner and operator of First Class Real Estate South Home Group. She can help you with the buying, selling, and investment needs throughout the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste at 205-861-5698. Reach out to Celeste again at 205-861-5698 and schedule a consultation to discuss your real estate goals and to live where you love in the state of Alabama. Are you guys in the mood for community goods and great barbecue? That's what you'll find at the Coker Market, located in Coker, Alabama at the four-way intersection off of County Road 140. Their hours of operation are Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m., and their menu items include the Midnight, which is smoked ham, smoked pork, Swiss cheese, Creole mustard, mayonnaise, and a pickle, grilled on French bread. That sandwich is absolutely amazing. Make sure you go and check out the Coker Market right there at the four-way intersection in Coker for amazing food and community goods.
This is a special. Follow Tide 100.9 on Facebook today to watch our live shows, read the great articles, and interact with Bama fans today.
Since 1999, residents of Tuscaloosa has depended on this butcher shop and grocery store. I'm talking about South's Finest Meats. With their specialty meats and fresh to frozen bulk vegetables, you can prepare delicious home-cooked meals all week long. At South's Finest Meats, customer service is their number one priority, and when you shop with them, you can expect to be treated like an MVP. Go by and check out South's Finest Meats at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show.
Welcome back to the Stingray Show here on Tide 100.9. SEC fans, we have a very special guest. We have Coach Mark Godfrey is with us. Coach, I got this fun question for you, and I think I know the answer, but I hope there's a story there. If there's not, we'll move on. But I got a great feeling you guys don't interact too much with play-by-play announcers over the years. With that, the great Jack Crystal, the late Jack Crystal from Mississippi State, who announced for 56, 58 years, whatever it was in Starkville, made a statement during one of your classic battles between you and Rick Stansberry, and you guys won the game there in Coleman Coliseum, and at the very last second, you went in for a dunk. One of your players went in for a dunk, and the game had already been decided. And all of a sudden, they said, well, that's not really a classy thing. And Jack Crystal, in his crotchety old age, loses it. He goes, who said they got class at all? This whole place is classless. This whole bunch is classless. And he just went on a tirade as the buzzer went off. And I know Mississippi State fans laughed and laughed and laughed about that. And I heard the Alabama fans, when they got word about it, laughed as well. Did you ever hear that story or have any run-ins with the late Jack Crystal?
I never had any run-ins, but here's what's funny about that again, as time goes on. When you're in the heat of the battle, he was a homer, first of all. He was a homer for his team, which is a good thing. I like that, when you got your guy on the radio going to bat for you. But I think comments like that, things like that, they made that rivalry so much better. The fans got into that game so much. We'd go over there, and that place was packed. And they'd come to Tuscaloosa packed. You couldn't find a seat in Coleman Coliseum. So, those kind of things, you kind of laugh them off. I never heard that he said that, I'm not familiar with it.
I'm sure it's on YouTube if you want to look at it.
I know he was such a great voice for Mississippi State. He was kind of a legend there for a long time. So when you're a legend, you get to say some things that sometimes other people don't get to say.
So, Coach, I do want to ask you about one of the craziest situations I've ever seen in a basketball game, and unfortunately, you were a part of it. Let's move to the 2008 season and another Mississippi State game in the SEC tournament in Atlanta when a tornado hit downtown Atlanta and the Georgia Dome. Coach, if you could, please walk us through that entire chaotic situation.
Well, that's another one that you'll live in a lifetime and never have anything like that happen before.
Yes.
But, back in the SEC tournament, we played in the Dome there in Atlanta. And, it was overtime. Mikhail Riley had hit a shot. We were down 3 and had a side out of bounds. And we ran out of bounds play and got Mikhail Riley a shot in the corner. And he made the 3. Which we later learned that if he had missed that shot and people would have exited the arena, they would have been walking outside in the midst of a tornado. But, the tornado rolled through downtown Atlanta. When it went over the top of the dome, it sounded like a train track, like a train is going over the top and you're trying to figure out what was that? Like, what is that noise? It was loud. It was like, just unusual. We didn't know what it was. And they stopped the game, and I can remember there were bolts that were dropping from. If you imagine how high the ceiling was in the dome there, and there's little nuts and bolts that were kind of up there somewhere. They were dropping and hitting the floor, and so we were all kind of trying to figure it out. And I think they cleared the court pretty quickly. We went to the locker room. I think we stayed in the locker room for about an hour and 20 minutes. It was a long time, and it's an overtime game in the tournament, so you got to finish the game. And then the other thing that was really interesting about that, we had a really good player named Alonzo G, and Alonzo G had just gotten fouled. And I want to say we might have been down by 2. He gets fouled on a 1-and-1 with a chance to tie it. And he's got to sit in the locker room for an hour and 20 minutes before he shoots the front end of his 1-and-1. Right. And so when we resume play, we finally come back out to play. We start play back up with him on the line on a foul shot. Right. And, he misses the front end where, maybe in the flow of it, maybe, he'd had a better chance to make 2 foul shots and then the game is tied. Well, we missed the front end. They come down. I think they hit a 3. Now they're up 5 and, it's a different game in overtime. Right. But it's the most unusual, strange, thing I've ever been a part of in sports. I've never seen anything like that. And then if people remember correctly, they canceled the next game that night, which was Georgia and Kentucky. Yeah. And then Georgia had to play 2 games in the same day on the following day because the SEC had to finish the tournament by Sunday for the automatic bid. So that tornado was
those games in the tournament.
And so anyway, it was completely weird and strange to go through something like that.
So, Coach, looking back at your entire coaching career, what is one thing that you wished you would have had the opportunity to experience but never got that opportunity?
That's a great question. And, our team at Alabama, went to the Elite Eight. We were 40 minutes away from the Final Four. And they're bringing that team back on February 17th. It'll be fun to see everybody in Tuscaloosa there. They're going to honor that team at halftime, I think, on the 17th of February. But, what I wanted to do more than anything at Alabama, my alma mater, I played there. I wanted to take Alabama to the Final Four. That was all I thought about every day. I wanted to win a national championship. I wanted Alabama to be in the Final Four. And I can remember the year we went to the Elite Eight. You wake up that morning and we got Connecticut, who, by the way, was really, really good. They had smoked everybody in the tournament that year and won the national championship. But I just remember saying, man, we're 40 minutes away.
Right.
We're 40 minutes away from Alabama basketball being in the Final Four. I'd grown up going to Final Fours. My dad was a high school and small college basketball coach, and I loved the Final Four. And, we were just knocking on the door, but we didn't get there. And so, throughout my whole coaching career, that's one of those things that I never got done that I wanted to, and I really wanted to do it at Alabama because that was my alma mater.
Wow. Coach, who was the one player that got away from you recruiting-wise that if you had him, he would have taken you to the next level? He'd have got you that Final Four, whatever it might be.
I think when I was at Alabama, and there's a lot of stories. We ought to write a book about this one, Dave. It's probably Mario Austin, who was from just over there in West Alabama. He went to Mississippi State, and that's the same era when we had those really good teams in 2002. Mo Williams, kind of that right after that little bit of era right there. And, that one broke my heart, that we didn't have Mario there with us, cause we felt strongly that in the state of Alabama, coach there, our philosophy was we're going to build a wall around the state on the state line and nobody's coming in to get a player. North Carolina tried to get Richard Hendricks and Duke tried to get Gerald Wallace and we weren't going to let that happen. We were going to make sure the Alabama kids stayed home. And so when we lost Mario, he was probably the guy looking back that, you'll put your head on the pillow at night thinking, what in the world? That one probably stung more than any of them.
Wow. So, Coach, look, man, we have thoroughly enjoyed you joining us. And if you would, please go on ahead and let everybody know where they can follow you on social media, and especially let everybody know about that podcast, please.
Well, the podcast is a lot of fun. They can go to www.coachmarkgodfrey.com. All the podcasts sit on there. They're on Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube. It's called The Front Row with Coach Mark Godfrey. We've had some fun guests, mostly sports guys, but some people outside of sports as well. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's actually blowing up right now. So I'm having a ball with it. But I'd love for people to check it out and see what they think.
And Coach, we look forward to having you back in Tuscaloosa on February the 17th. Enjoy that.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Coach, join us anytime. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Heath, I got to be honest with you. That was one of my favorite shows right there with Coach Mark Godfrey.
Yeah, anytime I ask a question and our guest says, hey, that's a really good question. Coach said that twice. So it seemed like Coach was having a lot of fun. He shared a lot of laughs with us, a lot of great memories. He talked about his struggles and his successes. He talked about wins. He talked about losses. He talked about things on and off the court. If you missed any of this interview, check out the podcast. And I'm going to tell you a secret to everybody else. This podcast or this radio show went way long. We have to cut it down. there's going to be like an extra 40 to 50 minutes of material, and it's going to be dynamic. It is going to be amazing. So if you missed any of it, check it out on social media. We'll have it posted on our Facebook page. Stephen will tweet it out on X, but check it out on Spotify or Apple Music, The Stingray Show. Coach Mark Godfrey hit a grand slam with this show today.
And Heath, to piggyback off of that, we went an hour and 45 minutes with Coach. We can only put an hour worth of content on the radio, so 45 minutes of extra bonus content on that podcast.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely amazing. Yes. It'll be a podcast that you share with friends. It really will be.
So, Heath, on that note, we got to sign off here on the Stingray Show. We hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed the radio version of the Mark Godfrey interview. And Heath, when we come back tomorrow evening, we're going to stay on the topic of basketball because Mississippi State takes on Ole Miss tomorrow evening at 7:30, and we're going to be joined by Brad Logan and Steve Robertson to dive into both sides of that huge matchup tomorrow evening in the Magnolia State. And Heath, any final words before we head out?
No, I'm looking forward for Brad joining us and also Steve. That'll be excellent. But again, check out the podcast on Spotify and on Apple. You will thoroughly be impressed. And if you missed any of this show, you can play it all back. You can see all of our other shows there and all of our great guests. Because, hey, no one can dispute this, Stephen. No one at this station has bigger guests than us.
That's correct. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we will see you on down the line. And on down the line is tomorrow evening right here on the Stingray Show, previewing Mississippi State versus Ole Miss basketball. Hell State and Hotty Toddy. Nope, you're not going to say it, are you?
Nope.
Are you guys in the